Good afternoon. I'm Danielle Shank in the 1011 Now Alert Center with your weekly consumer safety spotlight. Joining me once again is Josh Planos with the Better Business Bureau. How's it going today, Josh?
It's going great, Danielle. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for being here. So, the 2026 tax season has come and gone, but unfortunately, that doesn't stop the scammers. So, Josh, what happened in this recent scam targeting a Nebraskan?
Yeah, within the past week, Danielle, a Nebraska woman, reported a scam on behalf of her 84-year-old mother. She said her mother had been targeted multiple times by phone calls from somebody impersonating the Internal Revenue Service. So this person would call. Thankfully, her mother would not answer the call and it would go to voicemail. And this person was told that they had tax related issues, payment related issues dating back to 2018. And fortunately, this person reached out to their daughter to one, have the conversation before providing any sort of payment. So no money was actually lost in this scam. They were just repeatedly targeted by something that is not unique to this person. The reason why 2018 is so important in this conversation is because a lot of the time the IRS will call about things that exploit the documentation gap. For instance, most of us know maybe a little bit of information about what we reported, 12 months prior. Most of us don't really know what happened in 2018. I know I certainly don't, right? So most people only keep tax records for 3 to 7 years, and scammers know that. So they will frequently call people and tell them that they owe taxes from like 2011, where you really can't pull out a return to contradict them. Some of us can, right? Some people are very organized, but many more of us do not have that 2011, 2018 file readily available. So it's much harder to say that's wrong when you don't have any paper to prove it. And again, these people are really presenting themselves to be government officials or people that are in positions of power. And so they create plausible uncertainty for victims. Even honest, financially responsible people have gaps in their memory about things that happened a decade ago. And uncertainty is really just the opening that scammers need. So, on one end, very good that this person reached out to their family member and had that conversation. We talk about that so regularly. You need to open up those lines of communication with your family. On another, it's concerning that somebody at that age would be targeted multiple times by somebody for something that they didn't do.
hmm And so, for anyone who gets a call like this, what's the clear sign that it's not actually the IRS?
Yeah, if your phone is ringing and the caller claims to be the IRS, that alone is the first red flag. I'm sure that someone out there has had a conversation with the IRS over the phone, but if you really stop and think about how the IRS actually reaches out to you, they always contact taxpayers first by US mail. They don't reach out by phone, by text, or by email. So, really, the mode of communication is really significant. Most of us also don't have a line of contact at the IRS, right? So, when we receive these types of communication, we're not thinking about our friend Jerry that we can pick up the phone and have a conversation with and put that situation to bed. But it's really important that you rely on some of the foundational elements of how this agency works, how they reach out to people to know what is real from what isn't. I would also caution people to be on the lookout for what the fear tactic is in the conversation. The IRS is, I'm sure plenty of people at the IRS are stressed out, but they would not call you and put you in a position of panic. They wouldn't threaten arrest or deportation or license suspension to make you act before you had a chance to think. So, again, this is a foundational aspect. Would a legitimate government agency give you time to verify a claim? The answer is probably, right? They wouldn't force you to make that decision while you're right there on the phone. Another thing that I would caution is to not trust your caller ID, as counterintuitive as that might sound. Scammers are able to use spoofing technology to make calls appear to come from actual IRS numbers. They'll include, area codes from Washington D.C. A number that looks real means absolutely nothing in this context. It's really important that, again, if you have a concern, you hang up the phone and call the IRS directly. Don't just assume that because the caller ID said you were receiving a call from that agency that it is real to begin with.
Mhm. Now, are scammers increasingly targeting seniors? Is this something that you're seeing, based on these fear tactics that they have and threats over old tax filings?
Yeah, I think scammers are well aware that seniors, on average, have more money, discretionary money to be spent than the younger generation. But I myself have received one of these very phone calls. I actually received it, ironically, in 2018. So it's not just that seniors are being targeted. It is that really anybody who has a public profile or any sort of information available online could field a phone call like this. I would say that seniors are on average going to be a little bit more susceptible to these scams because, again, what are the odds that you know what tax filing you had in 2018? But I would not say that this is specific to seniors, though. Uh, we do hear from a lot of seniors who do ultimately experience just what this woman did.
Hmm. And if someone's elderly parent is getting repeated scam calls, what's something that the family should do first?
Yeah, I would say one, look into what their cell phone provider is. A lot of every cell phone provider has really some advanced settings that you can take advantage of that really will reduce the amount of spam calls. This is unfortunately not going to register as spam, but it does at least cut down on some of that spam related activity. One thing that is a positive from this experience is that this woman let the call go to voicemail. We talk about so regularly that that is such a useful first line of defense. If you don't have that number saved, always let it go to voicemail. I know that some industries lend themselves more readily to that kind of approach, and some don't, right? But it's really important that if you can use that necessary filter to suss out what is a real call from what is a fake one. They almost certainly won't leave you a voicemail. In this situation, they did, but in most circumstances, they will not, right? So letting that call go to voicemail is really best practice. So you can have that call on your own terms once you've done your research into the situation that you've been presented with.
Yeah. Now, if someone goes as far as to have a conversation with the scammer and maybe even send some money, what should they do next?
Yeah, it depends on the mode of payment, to be sure. If you provided your credit card number, you want to pick up the phone and immediately have a conversation with your credit card company. If it involved an account associated with your bank, this is a really good opportunity to develop a relationship with a bank representative. All credit cards have contact information on the backside, so don't feel like you need to, frantically do a search to find the necessary contact information. It's going to be right there on the card. If it involves, cryptocurrency, then it's going to be a little bit more complicated. You certainly want to get a family member involved, and you want to report that to a reporting agency. The FBI, right, is going to be able to help you with things related to cryptocurrency. But it really depends on the mode of payment. You just want to make sure that if you feel like an account is being compromised, that's really the necessary channel to get on the phone with as quickly as possible.
All right. And so, are there any other things that you want to add about this scam in particular before we talk about the importance of reporting scams?
Just to reiterate, it's really important that you talk to somebody before you do something with circumstances related to safety or payment. Scammers always demand immediate action specifically because they know a second opinion will probably expose them or leave them vulnerable to decisions that they could have you make right there. If somebody is pressuring you to pay right now, call a trusted friend, a family member, your tax preparer, right, in this circumstance. That 2-minute conversation could save you thousands of dollars and a whole lot of headache in the process. So I know that we want to naturally handle situations on our own, but this is really a useful opportunity to lean on somebody else, particularly if you're on the fence about going through with one of these kind of efforts.
Mhm. Now, for anyone just joining us, we've been talking about some red flags to watch for when it comes to a recent IRS scam that was reported. It impacted a Nebraskan. So every week, Josh and I talk about the importance of reporting scams, but today we want to dive a little bit deeper into why it matters to report those scams, not just for the person targeted, but for others who could be next. So, why does reporting a scam matter so much, even if someone didn't lose any money?
Yeah, most people think about reporting a scam as something that they do for authorities. And what they don't realize is that they're also doing it for the next potential victim. So when you submit a report, there are a lot of different places you can do that. I work for the Better Business Bureau. we have an intake form called Scam Tracker. It's bbb.org/scam tracker. And the details on Scam Tracker, as you can see, they become publicly visible. Not your name, but the scammer's name, their tactics, their script, their email address, their phone number. That report is then indexed by search engines. So when the next person receives a call from someone using the same name, the same story, and they're going to do what most of us do, which is they're going to Google it, right? They're going to pull up a browser and they're going to search for it. So here's an example of somebody who in Nebraska was targeted by an Amanda Hawkins with a phishing scam. The name Amanda Hawkins is kind of inconsequential, but that is included in this report. When somebody reports that experience and if this gets indexed, it shows up on Google search results. So you can think about this like a review on a restaurant that you got sick at. You might never eat there again, but if you post that review, it might protect the next person who is about to make a reservation. That same reported information becomes public information, right? So if somebody, let's say somebody else gets a phone call from Amanda Hawkins and it's a phishing scam, just like the one we received this month through Scam Tracker. One of the first search results, right, is going to be Amanda Hawkins. You can think about that as a small step. That's a really significant step if somebody feels like they're the first person who's ever been, fielded a communication from Amanda that amounts to a phishing scam. This same reported information also feeds into AI tools and chatbots that people are increasingly turning to when something feels suspicious. If that scam has been reported, those tools can recognize it, they can warn the user. If it hasn't been reported, that silence reads as safety. So it's really important that people pick a reporting method that tells a public story, right? Because that information becomes searchable. Unfortunately, a lot of victims choose private reporting channels. They tell a family member, they call a hotline, they file a complaint. That information never sees the light of day. Those options still have some value, but they don't create the public paper trail that protects strangers and really is essential in 2026. So silence doesn't just fail the reporter, it clears the path for the next victim. If you publicly file a report, that can interrupt the momentum of a scam in ways that a government database never will, right? Because it protects somebody at the point at which they're about to either go through with that experience or walk away. So I know that in some ways this is intuitive, but it really is important for folks to understand that by bringing this information into the public and into the light, that is incredibly protective. And doing the opposite, where that information is kept under wraps, really only ever protects the perpetrator of the crime.
hmm So with this, the person reported it to the BBB, and then now you're able to search it on Google, and then also chat can recognize. So you ask chat, and it's able to find that information as well. Is that correct?
It is. And some of these pieces of information are really, it's why we tell people to make as much of a coherent report as possible because Amanda Hawkins in this situation, Amanda Hawkins is not the most important piece of information here. The most important piece of information is the story that Amanda told to try to get into this person's device, right? So the more information, the better. But if, chances are that the scammer is going to be targeting multiple people with the tactics they use. So if somebody can see definitively Amanda Hawkins was used in the context of this scam report, and it's been reported recently, it's been reported in my market, they're going to know that that's an opportunity to avoid entirely. That's only if they know about it, right? And a step as small as just creating a publicly available piece of information, which again keeps you protected, it keeps you anonymous, is a very, very useful step in protecting others from needing to go through with that experience. So yes, chatbots are actively scraping, the BBB scam tracker data. They're scraping all sorts of stuff, for better and for worse. But in this context, this is bringing information to people in a way that's digestible and in a way that protects them at that point at which they're about to either go through with that experience or walk away from it.
hmm Now, in a phishing case kind of like this one, what details in the report are most useful as a warning for others?
Yeah, I would say, the best documentation is going to make the best report, right? So if somebody uses if they called you over the phone, that's going to be really useful to, include. If they say they represent a specific business, that's going to be really useful to include. If they use a specific line, really any information that points directionally toward this person and this type of strategy is going to be the most effective. So for some folks, right, they kind of shut down and they can only really remember the phone number or the email address. That's useful too. But typically, the tactic involves a whole backstory or enough of a backstory to wedge its way into your front door, right? So the more information you can collect on that person, the better. That doesn't mean that we want you to continue the conversation any longer than is absolutely necessary. It's really important that you hang up the phone as soon as you know or feel like you are being scammed by somebody. But the more information you can include in the report, the better. If you can remember, it was Amanda Hawkins. If you can remember, Amanda Hawkins was representing this company when they allegedly were presenting me with this story. We'll collect all of that information. We'll report all of that information. So the more information you can collect, the better, right? And that way, I guess we are asking consumers everywhere to do their best Sherlock Holmes impersonation and bring as much context and as much information to the table as possible, because truly that might be the tip off to the ripoff, right? That might be the significant piece of information that does alert somebody that, oh, I'm also experiencing exactly that same thing right now.
Mhm. And now you mentioned that the reports can be made public, but how does the BBB protect the person's identity who submitted it?
Yeah, it's really simple. I mean, we just don't include the person's name on any of the reports. The information it's really inconsequential who it targeted, right? It's really the demographic information that's probably most useful. So on the back end, right, this looks like a box that you check. In practice, it really doesn't impact anybody with where their information becomes public because their phone number is not associated, their email, their name is not associated. We do offer the ability for people to check a box if they are interested in speaking with the media. The reason being, I could talk all day about scam prevention. I can promise you what will resonate more in the minds of consumers is if they hear from somebody who went through it themselves, right? So we do want to make that information or that opportunity available to victims to come forward with their story and to be connected with someone who can bring that information to more people. But I also understand that the vast majority of folks who report their experiences are not interested in doing that. So it's an optional box that you check, and certainly the most important thing is that you're bringing that information forward, regardless of how much you want to be associated with that report after you click submit.
Mhm. Now, what would you say to viewers who think that reporting a scam won't make a difference, that they're just one little measly report, one person?
I mean, in a way, I almost feel in a similar way to that I do with people who feel like their vote doesn't matter. I think it does. I can tell you definitively that if everybody shut down and nobody reported their experience, the consequences of that would be disastrous, right? We're already in an uphill battle, so we need as many fraud fighters as we possibly can get. And one way we can actively do that is by coming forward when we see something. We do this all the time with violent crime, in the street. People report that very regularly, and I really think the next step for a lot of folks is really thinking about scam prevention in the same way. If you see something, say something. Right? That's been a line for seemingly all of human history, and it really is important here because what we are experiencing in real time is not what my parents experienced, nor what my grandparents experienced in real time, but it is very much of the moment. Right? Technology has made it possible for this level of activity, and the guardrails being so limited, we really do need people to speak up and to dedicate their time. This is like a volunteer effort that I really think everybody needs to take a stand in, whether you're for the scammer or you're against the scammer. And I would say 99% of us, right, are against the scammer, but it really does require people to give up some of their time and to speak up and to control what they can control, which is getting this information in front of people so they don't need to go through with losing money to someone who is targeting them for whatever reason.
Mhm. Now, if you're tuning in a little late to whether it's our TikTok stream, Facebook, website, any one of those, Josh and I kicked off this stream with a recent IRS scam report and then talked a little bit about why reporting scams is so important. You can again do that at the BBB scam tracker that we've talked a lot about. And Josh says it's quick and easy.
It is. It takes 2.5 minutes. The prompt it was intentionally set up to be as stress-free as possible. I know that this is not a stress-free experience for people, but we wanted the prompts to be as simple as possible such that they could still get that information in the hands of somebody who needs to hear it. So just follow the prompts and provide, as much information as you possibly can, such that somebody else can be protected from needing to go through with that experience. So please, 2.5 minutes, it's not a lot of time. If you feel like somebody could lose money to this, that is usually a very useful compass to follow of whether it should be reported or not.
Mhm. And so you can report scams or even search for them on the BBB website. And we will have this full interview on our website for you to watch in full and catch the entirety of what we've been talking about here today. So, Josh, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate it.
Appreciate having you. Now, you can stay tuned to our website, follow us on all our social media, and be sure to download our app on Roku for the latest news of the day. From our newsroom to wherever you are, we'll see you on the next stream.
1011 News is everywhere. Download our smart TV apps and follow us on social media at 1011 News.